Joe Buck was on Andy Cohen Radio on SiriusXM last week, and he was discussing Fox's plan, the TV plan, for how they're going to approach the broadcast, assuming there's no fans in the stands. And he had an interesting answer. This is Joe Buck on what Fox is planning to do without any fans in the stands.
Going into this season coming up, and that comes with a huge asterisk, and hopefully there is a season, there's probably going to be a season in doing games with no fans, which will be difficult. I think Fox and these networks have to put crowd noise under us to make it as normal a viewing experience at home.
You think they'll do that?
I do. Yeah, I think they'll do it. I know. In fact, I know they'll do it, and they are to the point now
that's the conversation right now.
It's pretty much a done deal. I think whoever's going to be at that control is going to have to be really good at their job and be realistic with how a crowd would react depending on what just happened on the field. So it's really important. And then on top of that, they're going to they're looking at ways to put virtual fans in the stands. So when you see a wide shot, it looks like the stadium's jam-packed.
So you hear Joe Buck there. Talks about, with no fans in the stands, their plan at Fox is to pump in fake crowd noise, put it underneath the broadcast, and even, as you heard him say too, maybe enhance it if a big play happens for the home team to make it seem again like there's fans in the stands. And I'll be honest, this seems like an awful idea. Put fake noise, fake crowd noise underneath the broadcast seems absolutely like an awful idea. And to me, it's only going to hurt the broadcast, not enhance it. And here's why. First of all, we all know it's fake. A lot of us, we all get annoyed when we know they're trying to fake us out. When it's not authentic, it doesn't have the same effect. Right, we're watching a game, and it's 100,000 people in the stadium, and they're going crazy on a third down. The opposition is backed up deep. Or if the home team gets a big touchdown late. That noise is awesome because it's real. It's authentic. You can feel it. Because you see all those fans going crazy. You hear the place shaking. When you have that same noise but no fans in the stand, it's going to feel weird. It's not going to feel authentic. It's only going to, to me at least, decrease the broadcast, because when it's fake, when it's repurposed, and when it's not authentic, how is it supposed to feel real? How are you supposed to really get excited when you hear, supposedly 80,000 fans going crazy, but you look and you see there's no fans in the stands? So I don't think it's going to enhance the broadcast of hearing, a crowd go crazy on a big third down or a big touchdown, because you're sitting in your living room and you see 80,000 seats empty. And I actually think no crowd and having no crowd noise could actually enhance the broadcast. So a few weeks ago, the UFC returned for the first time. They were the first real, sport in the U.S. to resume. They had no fans. And I was watching some of the prelims, and it's interesting because without any fans, they didn't try to pipe in any crowd noise. So it was just silent. It was just the fighters, and all you hear is the punches that are thrown, you hear the kicks that are thrown, and you really hear everything that is discussed in the octagon. And I thought that actually brought me in more than if you hear a crowd going crazy and hear a crowd reacting to a big kick or a big punch. And I think that's going to translate well to football, basketball, and baseball. If you're watching a football game, you can hear, and if there's no crowd noise, right, and you can hear audibly the hits on the field. You can hear a big hit, or you can hear, a wide receiver talking trash to a defensive back, or hearing players just getting really excited and screaming and yelling after big plays made. I think that would translate better. I think that would translate really well on television, because it gives you an angle, it gives you a peer into these players that you never see before. Right? We pick up some things on those microphones that you hear that maybe shouldn't be said, or some things are louder than the actual crowd noise. But to hear really a full NFL game with no crowd noise, but hear these these players talking adjustments, talking trash, you hear a big hit. I think it would translate well. I don't know if the only one who believes this. You have Steph Curry. He also is in favor of this for the NBA, saying that the league should go a step further, mic up the players, provide a new level that's really never been seen or heard before on a normal broadcast, and I'm totally with him. Right? Could you imagine if players mic'd up in real time? And I know the NFL already does this, but if you can hear them in real time, or even maybe listen more, or get a deeper angle, because all of a sudden a lot that's usually lost in the crowd noise, all of a sudden you can hear now. That could be great for the broadcast. So I'm all in favor of having no crowd noise under it, because I think hearing those noises, hearing the hits, hearing the adjustments that are talked about, hearing, even the trash talk that's being talked about on the field, I think it'd be great. I think fans would love that. I know I would love that. I think media would love it. I think it would, really give the leagues a new angle to really let you see these players you can never see them before. And I just think fake crowd noise would ruin that. And finally, too, when you kind of heard Joe Buck talking about this, from the way he was describing it, it's going to sound like someone's going to be in charge of the crowd noise, meaning that, okay, it's going to be low, maybe second down, the home team has the ball, and so there's really, not too much going on. There's maybe a lull in the crowd, and then all of a sudden, if a big play happens, the home team gets a sack on third down, the home team gets a touchdown, they're going to have to adjust and raise the crowd noise depending on the outcome. So I feel like that's going to be tough to do when you're in charge of judging what a crowd is supposed to react to, what a crowd is supposed to be like. I feel like it's going to make it worse. It's bad enough to have basically just one level of crowd noise underneath and basically just have it as background noise during these broadcasts. But to have someone then in charge of basically assuming what a crowd's going to be like, to raise it when a touchdown happens, or maybe lower it if a bad play happens, or maybe even pipe in boos, I just don't think it's going to feel the same. I don't think it's going to be a good idea. I don't think it's going to translate well to these NFL broadcasts. Numbers 16 through 13 here for the NFL's most intriguing teams of 2020. At number 16, the Indianapolis Colts, my team. A lot of question marks here, and it's interesting because, at least for one, how much does Philip Rivers have left? I think that's what everyone's watching. Can he go back to his form from 2 years ago when the Chargers were 12-4 and going to the playoffs, or is he more of what he was last year, which was just washed up, not good? I know the Colts are betting on that Philip Rivers has still more in the tank from 2 years ago. I'm very skeptical. This is my team, and I did not like the Philip Rivers signing at all. So I'm interested to see how much does he have left, but that is a major question mark because I really do like the roster the Colts have. I thought Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor were two great draft picks. Their offensive line is really, really good. Top 5 in the NFL. The defensive line is improving. They added DeForest Buckner to that defensive line, so they're really starting to kind of round into form. I like their defense. They're young, but they're growing. So I really like the overall roster of the Colts. I think they're playoff caliber, but they're only going to make the playoffs if Philip Rivers, again, still has some in the tank from 2 years ago. And if he plays anything like he does last year, the roster isn't good enough to carry him. And right now, the NFL is not built to when you have a quarterback that's not good to carry them to the playoffs. So I think they'll contend for the AFC crown. I think they'll be right in the mix with the Texans to make the playoffs. Again, the big question is going to come down to how much does Philip Rivers have left? And thus, that's a big question we'll be watching all season long, which is why I have the Colts at number 16. Number 15, the New Orleans Saints. Now, part of the reason why I have them lower, basically dead center, is because I do feel like they're a known quantity and a known commodity, right? Because we know that the Saints are going to be good. They have one of the best rosters in football. They've been nothing but winners with Drew Brees and Sean Payton. So I think we can almost pencil them in for worst case scenario, 10-6. So you already know what's going to happen. You know the Saints are going to have an explosive offense. You know their defense is going to continue to grow and play really well. The big question for me is, can Drew Brees make it through a full season? And full season meaning finish strong and go to the playoffs. Because the last 2 years, we've seen Drew Brees peter off. 2 years ago in 2018, we saw him really kind of hit a brick wall the last few games of the season. And we saw it in the playoffs. He struggled. He was not good in their playoff win over the Eagles, and he was not good in their playoff loss to the Rams. Obviously, we all know the biggest storyline coming out of that game. But even last year, Drew Brees breaks his thumb, misses 5 games. That almost helped Drew Brees because that kind of gave him a break in the middle of the season, have him came refreshed, and when he came back, he was strong. And again, even though I think that he petered off when we saw in that Vikings playoff game, he looked tired. He looked like he was out of energy, out of gas. I think that's the biggest question with the Saints is how much gas does Drew Brees have left in the tank? I mean, I think it's, at this point, it's safe to assume that this is Drew Brees' last season. I know he signed a 2-year deal, but between what Sean Payton accidentally slipping up and saying this is the last year for Drew Brees, you having him already taking a broadcasting job with NBC, I think this is it. This is Drew Brees' so-called last dance. Can they win a Super Bowl? Can they make a run at it? So, to me, that's what I'm going to be watching all year long. I think for the most part, for 3/4 of the regular season, you're going to know what you're going to get. The Saints are going to score a lot of points. They're going to win a lot of home games. So, for at least to me, when I'm looking at the Saints, I'm not really tuning in seriously to see what they're looking like to the last 4 games of the year. Because I'm watching Drew Brees to see what he looks like. Does he still have enough gas left in the tank? Is he still playing at a high enough level to when they get to the playoffs, he can elevate this team? The last 2 years, he was not able to do that. And I think that's, again, because of the old age. He's 41 years old. He has not been able to drink the fountain of youth that Tom Brady has, at least, a little bit, and finishing season strong. That's at least what I'm watching. Because other than that, we know the Saints are going to be good. And again, this list, if you're just tuning in for the first time, this list is not about ranking teams 32-1 based on how they're going to do in 2020. We've already had some good teams that are going to make the playoffs this season already in the back of the list. I had the Bills, I believe, number 26. I think the Bills are going to make the playoffs. I think the Bills are going to win the division. But it doesn't mean that their style of play is aesthetically pleasing, fun to watch, something that you're going to be constantly watching. This is all about the most intriguing teams, right? Storylines. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be bad? And so when every Sunday you're sitting down, you're going to have a few teams that you're going to be always watching, keeping an eye on. The Saints, for the most part, won't be one of those teams for the first 3/4 of the season because, again, I think you know what's going to happen. They're going to win a lot of games. Tough to beat at home. But can Drew Brees make it through a full season? That's going to be the big question mark. And that's why the Saints are at number 15. At number 14, a team with a lot of question marks that came out of free agency and the draft, and that is the Green Bay Packers. Now, one of the main questions, one of the serious questions we have to watch out is, can Aaron Rodgers improve in year 2, Matt LaFleur? They go 13-3 last year, but I'll be honest, their offense seems stagnant for most of the year. They weren't exactly a blow-you-away 13-3 team. They arguably are one of the worst 13-3 teams you could ever have because they just kind of petered through. The offense wasn't elite. The defense wasn't elite. They just kind of squeaked by a lot of games, and eventually, somehow, you wake up and they're 13-3. That blowout loss to the 49ers kind of showed you how far away they were from an elite team, from being a serious contender and being a serious Super Bowl contender. So how much can Rodgers improve in year 2, Matt LaFleur? Now he knows the system. Now he knows what's expected. Can he improve? Can he play better? And can the offense look better in year number 2? Are any weapons going to step up? Because guess what? Between the offseason, between the draft, they didn't really do much to improve those weapons. You're going to go with a lot of the receivers that played last year, whether it's Allen Lazard, whether it's really anyone outside of Devonta Adams, with just a rotating cast of receivers that were forced to step in because of injury or lack of production. And besides bringing Devin Funchess, they didn't really do much to give Aaron Rodgers any weapons. So I honestly think this year's going to be a toss-up. I have no clue what the Packers are going to be like. They could go 10-6. They can go 6-10. I honestly can't put my finger on it because there's so many holes that weren't addressed, but yet, it feels like they're just coming off a 13-3 year where they feel like they're 1 or 2 pieces away from winning a Super Bowl. So I'm interested to see, how the offense plays, how Aaron Rodgers plays, and more importantly, too, now this is an added drama as well. I don't think it's going to rear its head this year, but you never know, is if Aaron Rodgers struggles or he's getting frustrated with the offense or frustrated with the lack of weapons, how much drama do we see between Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur? I don't think he's going to take it out on Jordan Love. But with Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst drafting and trading up to draft Jordan Love, they're going to play him sooner rather than later. I told you a few weeks ago, I would be shocked if Aaron Rodgers is on the team past 2021. I think he is this year and he is next year. Then he's gone. I personally believe that I think by year 3, Jordan Love is going to be the starter for the Green Bay Packers. So Aaron Rodgers has 2 years left in Green Bay, this one and next year. I'm interested to see how fed up he is, and if he gets frustrated with Matt LaFleur, if there's drama, if there's trade demands or trade rumors. I think it's something to watch, especially if the Packers go off to a rough start. If they're 1-3, 1-4, that's a team I'm watching every single week because I am watching Aaron Rodgers' body language come off the field. I'm watching how he's interacting with the coaches. Because right now, Aaron Rodgers is a guy who has already claimed publicly to want to play into his 40s, want to be a Packer for life. Well, with drafting Jordan Love, basically the Packers shut the door on that. There's no way, unless Aaron Rodgers takes back and walks back what he said about playing until his 40s, and instead is just content with playing out his contract or playing out until the Packers tell him to retire, and he's fine with that, there's a lot of resentment, I believe, from Aaron Rodgers toward the Packers. And so he's going to be, one unhappy camper, I think, especially if things go off the rails early and the offense isn't what it's supposed to be and isn't developing. So that's why I have the Packers number 14. I think there's so much to watch. There's so many questions and storylines of how their season is going to go and what will the drama be like. We will see, especially the worse off start they get, the more drama I think is going to be cooking in Green Bay. They're a very interesting team that should be watched throughout the 2020 season. And we'll finish up this ranking with number 13, the Los Angeles Rams. I'm really intrigued to see how Sean McVay bounces back, right? 2 years ago, 2018, he comes in, they go to the Super Bowl. The Rams were unstoppable. The offense was looking great. Todd Gurley was playing great. Jared Goff's looking like the number 1 pick. You have all these different receivers to throw to. The offense looks great. Well, guess what? The next year, 2019 comes. Todd Gurley is not playing, and he's load managed unofficially because he has tendonitis in his knee, and the Rams are trying to preserve him as much as possible. Jared Goff takes a major aggression, maybe because, either the league figured him out or because the weapons weren't as great around him. Injuries also hurt the Rams as well. So I'm interested in what will the Rams look like offensively? Can Jared Goff bounce back to that 2018 version? Can Sean McVay learn from the failure in the Super Bowl, a rough 2019 season, to bounce back, make adjustments, and get the Rams back to that 2018 level? I'm interested to see, too, what the defense is going to look like. They lost some significant playmakers in free agency. They lost Corey Littleton. They lost Dante Fowler Jr., a linebacker and a defensive end, that were pretty good for their front seven for the Rams these last few years. And not to mention, too, you look at the division the Rams are in, whether it's the Cardinals, I think are going to be a really spunky, really frisky team. And notice the Cardinals have not been on this list, so they're going to be pretty high in my rankings for teams that I'm watching in 2020. I think the Cardinals are going to be even better this year than last year. You have, obviously, the Seahawks, and you have the 49ers. So the Rams are going to be in an extremely tough division if they want to make the playoffs and bounce back. So I'm interested to see how they fare. And you're going to have 2 games against the 49ers, 2 games against the Seahawks, obviously, 2 games against the Cardinals. I'm interested to see how this offense is going to look against tough defenses and against the rest of the league that maybe is making adjustments. Can Sean McVay get back to that level of 2018 when he took the league by storm? In 2017, 2018, he was the darling of the NFL. He was the guy that every team wanted a piece of, where they're hiring Zach Taylor, who was a quarterback coach for a year before taking him away, whether it's hiring Matt LaFleur. It seemed like basically anyone that Sean McVay came in contact with, even gave a high five to, they were getting an interview for a coordinator position or a head coaching position. After they've been in the league 5 minutes or 50 years, whoever Sean McVay touched, teams wanted to have a part of. I wonder if that shine started to run off, and I'm interested to see if Sean McVay can get it back. So those are at least my 4 teams and why I have the Rams at 13. I have the Colts at 16, the Saints at 15, Packers at 14, and the Rams at number 13.